The silence is the worst part. I'm not kidding. I think that's what's finally going to make me break. It's a physical presence, a thick, heavy blanket smothering everything. You know how you never notice the hum of the refrigerator until everything else stops? That's my life now. The fridge, the groan of the pipes in the wall, the sound of my own breathing. I used to complain about the noise of his video games, the relentless clicking of his keyboard while he worked from home. Now, I'd give anything to hear it again. Anything. It's not just that he's gone. It's the voids he left behind, the negative space that screams his name louder than he ever did. The empty hook by the door where his ridiculous, oversized keychain should be. The bathroom counter that feels ridiculously large now, with just my things scattered across it, looking lonely. His side of the closet is a hollow cavern, and I swear the mattress even dips differently without his weight, like it's mourning him, too. I know it was me. God, I'm not delusional, I know that much, but I just can't seem to connect the dots in a way that makes sense. How did it get this bad this fast? I keep replaying that night at Fiona's party, followed by our final, horrifically quiet conversation. It's like a movie I'm forced to watch on a loop, my eyes clamped open. Every single time, I want to scream at the girl on the screen. Shut up, Haley. For the love of God, just shut your stupid mouth. But I don't. She never does. She just keeps talking, her voice getting higher, more righteous, digging the hole deeper with every single twisted fact. The stupid, pathetic thing is, I thought I was being smart. I genuinely believed I was protecting myself. After what Owen did to me, the lies, the cheating, the sheer humiliation, I promised myself I would never be that blind, that trusting ever again. I'd see the signs. I'd be one step ahead this time. With Thomas, I was so determined to find the red flags that I think I just bought a can of paint and started decorating the walls myself. And now I'm sitting here, alone, surrounded by my own handiwork, and all I can think is, how do I undo this? How do I even begin to explain that I destroyed the best thing in my life because I was terrified of how good it was? Thomas was calm. That's the word for him. After the emotional hurricane that was Owen, Thomas was like a quiet, protected harbor. He came into my life when I was still picking up the shrapnel of my last relationship, trying to figure out which pieces of myself were even salvageable. Owen had cheated on me with a close friend. A cliché so painful and humiliating I could barely speak about it without my throat closing up. I was a wreck, jumpy, suspicious, and convinced that every man was just a liar waiting for the right opportunity. I was a walking bundle of exposed nerves. Thomas knew all of this. I laid my baggage out on our third date, a preemptive strike designed to scare him off. I remember just unloading everything, the whole sordid story, expecting him to make a polite excuse and vanish. He didn't. He just listened, his gaze steady and kind, and when I was done, he simply said, "Okay, thank you for telling me. I'm not him, Haley." And he wasn't. For over a year, he was the living embodiment of patience. He was a relationship maintainer, a man who derived quiet satisfaction from keeping things steady and safe. If I had a bad day, he wouldn't just ask about it. He'd have dinner ready, my favorite comfort food, without me ever having to say a word. If I felt a wave of anxiety coming on, triggered by something as small as a character in a movie being unfaithful, he'd just sit with me, not pushing, not offering empty platitudes, just being a solid presence until it passed. He made me feel safe. He texted when he said he would. His friends were all decent, long-term partners themselves. He introduced me to his family, who welcomed me with open arms and treated me like I'd always been there. He was, by every conceivable metric, perfect. And that, right there, was the problem. It was too perfect. The old wound from Owen had scarred over, but the nerve endings were still raw, hypersensitive to the slightest pressure. My brain, trained by trauma, couldn't accept this new reality. It started whispering to me at night, a venomous little voice in the dark. No one is this good. It's an act. He's just better at hiding it than Owen was. The bigger the saint, the harder the fall. The first real crack appeared on a Tuesday night. We were on the couch, watching some dumb reality show, and his phone buzzed on the coffee table. It lit up, and I saw a notification banner from a woman named Serena. The message was innocuous, something about a project deadline for work the next day. but my heart seized in my chest. It was a physical jolt of panic, so intense it made my ears ring. He didn't even notice my reaction. He glanced at it, typed a quick "got it, thanks," put his phone back down, and pulled me closer. He was trying to be comforting, but all I could feel was the cold dread spreading through my veins. I didn't say anything. I just smiled, curled into his side, and let the poison start to work. Who was Serena? And why was she texting him at 9 p.m. about work? The seed was planted. It was a tiny, insignificant thing, but it had found fertile, damaged soil to grow in. That tiny seed didn't just grow, it metastasized. It became an obsession that consumed my quiet moments, and then, eventually, all my moments. My mission to protect myself turned into a full-blown, clandestine investigation of the man I was supposed to love. It started small, almost laughably so. I'd wait until he was in the shower or fast asleep, my heart pounding a guilty, frantic rhythm against my ribs, and I'd pick up his phone. My hands would be shaking so badly I could barely type in the passcode I'd memorized by watching the smudges on his screen. I'd scroll through his texts, his call logs, his social media messages, feeling like the world's most pathetic spy. I found nothing, absolutely nothing. Just boring conversations with his mom about her garden, stupid memes from his friends, and work-related group chats that were so dull they made my eyes glaze over. A sane person would have been relieved. I was suspicious. The absence of evidence wasn't evidence of absence. It was proof of how cunning he was. He must be deleting things, using a second phone, or communicating on some app I didn't know about. So I dug deeper. I created a fake Instagram account, a faceless profile with a generic nature picture, just to follow Serena, the colleague from the text message. I spent hours scrolling through her life, analyzing every photo, every caption like a detective examining a crime scene. She seemed normal, annoyingly normal. She had a long-term boyfriend who featured in half her photos. They had a golden retriever. They went hiking. But my paranoid brain twisted every innocent detail into a sinister clue. A picture of a team lunch at work. I zoomed in on Thomas and Serena. Were they standing too close? Was that a shared look, a secret smile? A comment he left on one of her posts a year ago, a simple congrats on a promotion, became a piece of a sordid, secret history I was inventing in real time. I fell down a rabbit hole of digital stalking that would have been impressive if it wasn't so deeply unhinged. I checked his tagged photos, his liked posts, his followers. I cross-referenced names and dates. I became a conspiracy theorist of my own relationship, weaving a tapestry of betrayal out of thin air. Every time Thomas did something kind, my internal monologue would sneer. He's just covering his tracks. This is guilt. When he was late from work, it wasn't because of traffic. It was a lie to cover a secret rendezvous. When he was quiet, he wasn't tired. He was preoccupied with someone else. I was living in a constant state of high alert, searching for the betrayal I was now certain was coming. He noticed the shift in me, of course. How could he not? I was a ghost in our apartment. The easy laughter we shared was gone, replaced by a tense silence. He'd ask me what was wrong, why I seemed so distant, his brow furrowed with genuine concern. "I'm just stressed from work," I'd lie, my voice flat, unable to meet his eyes. He'd try to hold me to connect, but I'd flinch away from his touch as if he were a stranger. I was so convinced he was going to hurt me that I was already pulling away, already building my walls brick by miserable brick. He kept trying to reach me, and I kept interpreting his attempts at connection as attempts at manipulation. I was drowning in my own fear, and I was convinced he was the one holding my head underwater. The tipping point came at Fiona's 30th birthday party. It was supposed to be a fun night, a celebration with all our friends at a loud, trendy bar downtown. But for me, it felt like walking into an ambush. I had spent the entire week stewing in my own paranoid juices, my self-created evidence swirling in my mind. And by the time we got there, I was a tightly coiled spring of anxiety and resentment. I spotted Serena across the room almost immediately. She was there with her boyfriend, laughing with a group of people. My stomach clenched. Thomas went to the bar to get us drinks, and I watched his every move like a hawk, my eyes narrowed, tracking him through the crowd. And then it happened. He saw Serena, smiled, waved, and walked over to her. A rational person would have seen a friendly, professional exchange. Two colleagues, who happened to be at the same party with their respective partners, making small talk while waiting for the bartender. But I didn't see that. In my poisoned mind, I saw the final, irrefutable piece of my manufactured evidence clicking into place. The way he leaned in to hear her over the pulsing music. The way she laughed at something he said, touching his arm for a fleeting second. It was a completely normal gesture, but to me, it was an intimate caress. This was it. This was the flagrant, public display of their affair. A slap in the face to me, done right in front of everyone. My blood ran cold, then hot. All the sleepless nights, the obsessive scrolling, the self-inflicted torture, it all coalesced into a single, blinding point of rage. I picked up my half-full glass of wine and walked over to them. My movements felt strangely slow and deliberate, like I was moving through water. I didn't even register Fiona trying to say hi as I passed. I had tunnel vision, and my target was locked. I stopped right beside Thomas, and the small, friendly circle of conversation immediately died. They all looked at me, sensing the storm cloud I had brought with me. Thomas's smile faded, replaced by a look of confusion. "Haley, hey, you know Serena from my office, right?" "Serena, this is my girlfriend, Haley." My voice, when it came out, was trembling but loud enough to cut through the noise. "Oh, I know Serena. I feel like I know her very, very well." I looked directly at her, a cold, accusatory stare, then back at Thomas. "In fact, I know you liked her photo from that trip she took to Greece in 2019. The one in the blue bikini. You must have had to scroll for a while to find that one, huh? Doing some late-night research." Silence. A thick, horrified silence fell over our little group. Serena's face went from confused to utterly mortified, her cheeks flushing a deep, painful red. Her boyfriend put a protective arm around her, his expression hardening as he looked at me. Thomas just stared at me, his face pale with shock. "Haley, what are you talking about?" But I was on a roll now, the words tumbling out of me in a torrent of righteous accusation. The dam of my paranoia had burst. And what about all the late nights at the office? The project deadlines? Is that what you call her? A project deadline? I was practically spitting the words, my voice cracking with a hysteria I mistook for strength. I threw out every twisted piece of evidence. I had collected every late text, every innocent photo, every misinterpreted comment, presenting it like a prosecutor giving a closing argument to a horrified jury of our friends. The whole party hadn't stopped, but our corner of it was a frozen tableau of horror. Thomas just stood there, his expression shifting from shock to disbelief, and then to a deep, profound hurt that was so raw it should have stopped me in my tracks. He didn't raise his voice. He just said my name, his voice barely a whisper. "Haley, stop!" But I couldn't. I was finally getting the confrontation I had been rehearsing in my head for months. I was finally protecting myself. The party ended for us right then. Thomas grabbed my arm, not roughly, but with a firmness that broke through my hysterical haze, and steered me out of the bar. The walk home was silent, a 10-minute trek filled with a tension so thick I could barely breathe. I was still buzzing with adrenaline and a sick sense of vindication, ready for the fight of our lives. I expected yelling, denials, maybe even the tearful confession I had so often pictured. I got none of it. When we walked into our apartment, the silence followed us. It settled in the corners and draped itself over the furniture. He didn't turn on me. He just let go of my arm, walked over to the sofa, and sat down, burying his face in his hands. The fight went out of me in a sudden, deflating rush, replaced by a creeping dread. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. The next day, he texted me while I was at work, my stomach in knots. "Can we meet at the grind after you're done? I'll get a table." Not our apartment, neutral ground. My blood ran cold. I spent the rest of the afternoon in a fog, rehearsing my apologies, my explanations. I'd tell him about Owen, about the trauma, about how my fear had run away with me. He'd understand. He was Thomas. He always understood. When I saw him at the coffee shop, he was already sitting at a small table in the back. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept at all. The usual warmth in his eyes was gone, replaced by a calm, settled sadness. I sat down, my heart hammering against my ribs, and launched into my prepared speech. I apologized profusely. I cried. I told him I knew I was wrong, that I had let my past destroy our present, but that I could change. I promised to go to therapy. I begged. He listened to all of it patiently, without interrupting. He just watched me, his expression never changing. When I finally ran out of words, my voice hoarse from pleading, he took a slow sip of his coffee. Then he looked at me, and his voice was devastatingly gentle. "I believe you, Haley," he said. "I believe you're sorry, and I believe you mean it when you say you want to change." A wave of relief washed over me. "So we can fix this." He shook his head slowly, a single final movement. "No, we can't." He leaned forward slightly, his eyes holding mine. "I love you, I think I always will. But I can't live like this. For the past few months, I felt like I'm on trial for a crime I didn't commit. I feel like I have to constantly prove my innocence, and the jury is never, ever going to believe me. Last night, you didn't just accuse me, you convicted me, in public, in front of our friends." He took a deep breath. "I forgive you, I do, but I cannot let you back into my life. I need peace, Haley, and I can't have it with you." He left the coffee shop, and I just sat there, frozen, until a waitress asked if I needed anything else. I went home to an apartment that already felt like a tomb. He came by a day later while I was at work to get his things. He was efficient, quiet. He didn't want a scene. He just wanted to be gone. It's been a week since then. A week of this crushing, deafening silence. This morning, I was looking for a phone charger and opened the drawer of the nightstand on his side of the bed. Tucked in the back was his old tablet, the one he never used anymore. He must have forgotten it. My hands were trembling as I picked it up. I don't know what I was looking for. More evidence. A final nail in the coffin of my own making. I turned it on, and the browser opened to the last page he'd been looking at. It was a search engine. And there, in a neat, heartbreaking list, was his search history from the past 3 months. How to help a partner with relationship trauma. My girlfriend is insecure because of her ex. Ways to build trust with someone who has been cheated on. Signs your partner is self-sabotaging a relationship. Gift ideas for a girlfriend with anxiety. Reddit AITA for being friends with a female colleague. I scrolled down, my vision blurring with tears. There were links to articles, forums, therapists' blogs, and then I saw it. A tab opened to a Reddit posting form. It was a draft, a post he had written but never submitted. The title was, "How do I convince my 32 million girlfriend, 29F, that I'm not her ex?" I read the post, my whole body shaking. He laid it all out. My paranoia, my accusations, his desperate, failed attempts to reassure me. He wrote about how much he loved me, how he knew I was hurting, but that he was starting to feel like he was disappearing. He was losing himself trying to fight a ghost. The final line of the draft was, "I feel like I'm failing her, but I don't know what else to do. How do I show her she's safe with me?" He never posted it. He must have decided to try one more time on his own. And that final time was Fiona's party. I dropped the tablet onto the bed. The screen stayed lit, illuminating the digital ghost of a good man's last, desperate attempt to save us. And I finally understood. While I was busy playing detective, convinced I was protecting myself from a monster, he was desperately trying to protect me from myself. And I had punished him for it, right up until the moment he finally, quietly, saved himself.